ADX Florence, built south of Florence, Colorado in 1994, is the most secure prison in the United States prison system. America's only federal supermax prison is home to some of the world's most dangerous criminals, including names you might recognize. Today, we will tell you about the Florence Supermax, America's toughest prison. Number 7. What is a supermax prison? Supermax prisons are the highest level security prisons, designed to hold inmates that pose extreme security threats. Inmates have little to no time outside of their cells, very few activities, and very little contact with other humans. Alcatraz is considered to be an early example of what would become the supermax model. The controversial penitentiary on the outskirts of Florence, a small rural town once founded as a pass-through for coal-carrying trains in the 1800s, first started housing inmates in 1994. Today, ADX is home to 361 of the country's most high-profile criminals. Prisoners here, we're talking serial killers, terrorists, mobsters, cult leaders, drug kingpins, and those deemed too violent to live among a general prison population, live in near continuous solitary confinement. Inmates spend 23 or more hours a day isolated in soundproof 7 by 12-foot cells outfitted with a single 4-inch slit for a window. Due to these conditions, the ADX has been at the center of contentious debate about human rights and solitary confinement's effect on mental health. As Robert Hood, a former warden of the ADX, told the New York Times in 2015, this place is not designed for humanity. In fact, the decision by a London court in early 2021 not to extradite Julian Assange to American soil can be partially attributed to his possible assignment to ADX. The judge, Vanessa Baratzer, said that her impression of the WikiLeaks founder's mental state was such that it would be oppressive to extradite him to the United States of America. The ruling implied that 23-hour-a-day isolation would be too iron-fisted for someone exhibiting depressive and suicidal behavior. Assange is currently jailed in southeast London. The last time ADX made headlines for a high-profile individual was in 2019, when Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the leader of Mexico's Sinaloa drug cartel, was relocated to Colorado after being sentenced to life plus 30 years on international drug trafficking charges. With a propensity for violence and access to near unlimited resources, El Chapo was an obvious candidate for the ADX. He's twice escaped from maximum security prisons in Mexico. His jailbreak from El Altiplano in the summer of 2015, in which he drove a motorcycle through a mile-long underground tunnel, is the stuff of movies. As was his recapture by Mexico's Marines in January 2016, which was preceded by a massive 6-month manhunt, a deadly gunfight, and El Chapo slipping out of an escape hatch hidden behind a closet mirror. No one has ever escaped the ADX, although there has been one homicide within its walls, which is why it's been called the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Most prisoners get out only in death, via transfer to another facility, or in very few cases, if they live long enough to see their release date. Number 6. The U.S.'s most secure prison. Commonly referred to as a supermax prison, it has 490 beds in a compound which encompasses 37 acres. The prison was designed to house prisoners deemed too dangerous or high profile for regular incarceration, and nearly 95% of all inmates that have been sent to Florence were transfers with histories of violent behavior in other prison facilities. ADX Florence is known for its harsh conditions. Inmates are kept in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. The hour they are allowed out is into a bigger cell with vaulted ceilings called the empty swimming pool. This room has a 4-inch by 4-foot skylight as the only window. It is designed to prevent the prisoners from knowing where they are, and they still spend this time alone. For at least the first 3 years, prisoners are not allowed to come in contact with other prisoners at any time, anywhere on the premises. Over time, good behavior can earn inmates more outside time. And for the most fortunate, a possible transfer back to a less secure prison can await. The cell furniture is limited to a desk, stool, and a bed, and each is constructed of poured concrete. The toilets are designed to shut off if plugged, and the showers are on timers. Rooms may have mirrors, lights, radios, and in very rare instances televisions, but these are used as privileges based on behavior and are seldom awarded. There is no mess hall. Food is hand-delivered to each inmate by the guards. The prison has a multitude of motion detectors and cameras, 1,400 remote-controlled steel doors, and 12-foot-high razor-wire fences. It would be difficult to classify the prisoners as being unfairly treated, given the circumstances which likely got them there. Former ADX wardens have described the place as a cleaner version of hell. The prison operates under the strategy of sensory deprivation and solitude. Inmates are left to their own thoughts, which often leads to hallucinations, memory loss, and increasingly irrational behavior. Number 5. ADX has a reputation for being escape-proof. El Chapo has escaped prison twice while being held by Mexican authorities, in 2015 and 2001. But ADX is different. Nicknamed the Alcatraz of the Rockies, no one has escaped the facility located in the high desert about 2 hours south of Denver since it opened in 1994. Inmates are housed in soundproof 7 by 12-foot cells for 23 hours of the day in permanent lockdown, with no contact with other inmates. Staff members are carefully vetted and have little direct contact with inmates. Each cell contains a bunk, desk, stool, and shelf made of concrete, and a steel sink and toilet. Inmates can see outside of their cell through a single window that is 3 feet high and 4 inches wide, according to the New York Times. Most cells have televisions. According to the SF Gate, ADX is the only prison specifically designed to keep every occupant in near total solitary confinement. Number 4. ADX was born after the killing of 2 correctional officers. According to the Washington Post, ADX was conceived in the wake of the killing of 2 correctional officers on October 22, 1983, at the Marion Federal Prison in Illinois, what was at the time the toughest federal prison in the country. After their deaths, Marion was changed into an all-lockdown facility and served as the test model for other supermax lockdown facilities like Pelican Bay and eventually ADX. Number 3. Worse than death. Current C1 columnist Robert Hood, who served as ADX warden from 2002 to 2005, described life in ADX in stark terms to CNN. As soon as they come through the door, you see it in their faces. That's when it really hits you. You're looking at the beauty of the Rocky Mountains in the backdrop. When you get inside, that is the last time you will ever see it. The Supermax is life after death. It's long-term. In my opinion, it's far much worse than death. Number 2. It holds many high-profile inmates. A facility for the worst of the worst obviously holds a lot of criminals with household names. ADX Florence is home to some of this country's most violent and evil criminals. It is also the number 1 holding facility for convicted terrorists. One of the most famous residents is Thomas Silverstein, a convicted murderer and former Aryan Brotherhood leader who has committed 4 additional murders while in prison. Silverstein currently holds the record of being the longest resident of solitary confinement in the United States prison system, having been in solitary since 1983. Silverstein is often credited with being one of the reasons the ADX Supermax was designed, due to his uncontrollable activities in other prisons. Historically, the addition of another life sentence to a prisoner who already has one hasn't proved successful. Harsher penalties were needed to restore order and deter prisoners from killing prison guards. The threat of being transferred to solitary confinement at ADX Florence is the best deterrent in the prison system the United States has against violent crime. Number 1. The problem with Supermax prisons. Daniel Faithy, the director of the National Prison Project at the American Civil Liberties Union, wrote for the ACLU about this problem, saying, "In overcrowded prison systems, the typical response has been to fill the remaining Supermax cells with nuisance prisoners, those who file lawsuits, violate minor prison rules, or otherwise annoy staff, but by no stretch of the imagination require the extremely high security of a Supermax facility." Thus, in Wisconsin's Supermax, one of the worst was a 16-year-old car thief. 20-year-old David Tracy hanged himself in a Virginia Supermax. He had been sent there at age 19, with a 2.5-year sentence for selling drugs. The story doesn't stop in prison, though. While some in Supermax prisons serve life sentences to completion and others commit suicide, the overwhelming majority of these prisoners are released back into society. In fact, 95% of Supermax prisoners eventually are released. This reality means that everyday Americans should care about what happens in supermax prisons.
ADX Supermax, the Alcatraz of the Rockies, the most secure penitentiary in America. This place is designed that the individual that go there, they never intend to see them walk the streets again. Unfortunately, when I went there, I had 2 targets on my back. 1, I had litigation against the system. 2, I had received extra time for assault on an officer. Those 2 things can make life real hard for you in any penitentiary, but especially in a supermax like ADX. Very few people leave there, and if you leave there, it's a good chance your sanity may not be intact. I still wonder about mine sometimes. When I got there, having this target on my back, I still had several lieutenants and individuals trying to intimidate me to drop the lawsuit, but also trying to get their lick back what they felt like I had did to their co-worker. In my time down there, I was on the regular range with people like Larry Hoover, Wayne Perry, Eric Rudolph, the Olympic Park bomber. I did about 2 years on that range before I ended up getting teamed and gassed about 30 times because I was standing my ground against different things that they were doing there. Most of the guys around me had 10 life sentences, 5 life sentences. So we was on a whole different plane. But yet and still I fought the hardest of all of them. So as we went on, they put me in the SHU. They're like special housing unit, but it's the special housing unit in ADX, which means it's extremely special. Now over there, because you have very little things that they can take from you. So they take the little thing that they can. They take your personal property. They take all your personal food, your letter writing stuff. They'll strip you of all these little things that you try to use to make it day by day without going insane. Alright, I end up going to the control unit. That's places a lot of people had never been. Now when we over in the control unit, we under a thing called the SAM, which is special management. So I did about a year on that range. The thing about the SAM is the security level of myself and others there is that we have to remain behind 2 doors at all times. And certain people, as myself and some of the other more high profile people like El Chapo and people like that, we had to be behind 2 doors at all times. So I did about 2 years on there, moving back and forth. Went back to the regular range, then back over there again for getting teamed again. Then I finally went to this range that I had heard about, other people had heard about, but nobody believed it exists. But I used to hear the police threaten people with that range, that if you keep on giving me some trouble, you're going to find yourself back there on range 13. Eventually, we had a confrontation. They teamed me, they ran in on me. We ended up tussling, and an officer got hurt in that particular incident. So they took me, put me in restraints, and they took me back in range 13. I actually thought that they was taking me back there to kill me, that there was the last run for old Bam Bam. When you see that cell, this cell here is, it's a place, it's like a hole inside of a hole, like being in a well. This cell, it's got open grill bars on the front, but it's enclosed all around. At the back of the wall, there's 2 holes, and the 2 holes is operated by stoppers in the hallway. You cannot open the holes or move the stops off the hole. They can only be did from the hallway. So what they do is when they pass through, they'll take the cork off and they'll look in there and count you and then move on. If you paying attention and you get to see them counting you, all you're going to see is an eyeball. You don't have no contact with the police other than them monitoring you from the camera, from control. So when they're monitoring you, they'll ask you, Richardson, do you want to go to Rick? And you say, yeah, inside or outside. So it's so desolate back there that you can hear your own heart beating. You got nothing to watch. You got nothing to do. No paperwork, no nothing. So it's like it desensitizes you. And you go out there, and there at night, some of the police officers will get on the intercom and sing and laugh and mess with you to keep you up all night and everything. So they try to do that sleep deprivation thing with you. So actually you all groggy, woke up, but that's like I say, I was back there 2 times, and they generally do not put American people back there. This place here is designed for when they capture some terrorists or they got some individual from another country and they bring him over here to keep him from being able to be in contact with his family. So after that happened to me twice, and I goes out to the range with some of the men who had been there 25, 30 years, and they was like, man, you been on range 13? And I would say, yeah, and I would explain to them. They said, man, do that place really exist? And I like, man, I break it down to them. I tell them exactly how the setup was. They heard about it, but they never ever had seen anyone that had actually went back there, that came back and was able to tell them the story. So me, I did a lot of things down there, unfortunately, and got to experience a lot of things that a lot of other people didn't